And we're live. Oh, I said that in the middle of the cast. As you can see, I'm not going to be video editing this. We are on Scrap Station with the next installment of the Gnial Stalker into Void Ray Protoss versus Terran strategy. And we are featuring Gnial on the map, as well as Foo, the red Terran on the right. So with me is Gnial yet again, and we're going to be discussing the potential pitfalls that this build can go into with any sort of mistimings and what a Terran can do to stop it. So what can a Terran do to stop it?
If the Terran is just very crisp about their build and they get a whole bunch of units out quickly, then as the Protoss player you really have to get your timings very correct. Like in the previous one I said that 4 minutes and 40 seconds is about when you want your Stalkers to reach their base. Well, we'll see how a whole bunch of things in this map and the way that I generally start make it so that that's not possible. And because the Terran managed to get a few extra units out, rather than having this snowball effect where I keep killing his units and gain more and more of an advantage, it has a reverse effect. And so we'll see. We'll see it unfold here.
So you get your gateway on 13. A little
so
bit
there's
later
the first mistake.
Well, let's keep a running count. But as we see, Foo's opening normally. He should be getting a gas right about now. He is. Your scouting workers kind of trade places a little bit. And at this point, Foo just sees a normal Protoss player at this point. You're getting your gas, you're getting a gateway. Is there anything that you think tipped him off, that he was going to be seeing something different? Was it the second gateway that forced him into more units, or? I know it's a tough question.
Yeah, this was one of the more recent games I played, and so the build has been around for quite a while, and a lot of people have been doing their own variations and this kind of stuff. So I think a lot of Terrans who play a lot are getting used to this at least the Stalker opening. So when they see these two gateways, they'll throw down a bunker or something. I mean, this almost goes for any matchup. If you see the Protoss throw down two gateways before anything else, you assume some early pressure.
Right, but so, the gas going down makes it seem like you're going to be teching up a little bit, and it's really strange how the metagame has evolved. Before, Terrans used to just go kind of more Marauderish, and then they saw the early Reaper come out, which forced the Protoss into getting that early Stalker. And now, this is kind of the evolution of that, putting the Stalker in an offensive rather than defensive position. You are starting to chrono boost your units out, and unfortunately Foo has the Watchtower, as well as Marines, 3 Marines, and his factory build.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be too worried about
different.
It is a lot different. He's got a lot more anticipation of what's going on, and you'll notice this rush distance is quite significant compared to that short lost temple rush distance.
Right.
But I wouldn't worry too much about them seeing you at the Xel'Naga Tower. I mean, I guess they could throw down a bunker in the time that it takes for the Stalkers to walk from the tower to their base, but Stalkers are pretty fast, so there's not too much they can do to react at that point. But I mean, he doesn't do anything anyways. He just keeps building his 3 Marines and his Marauder. So you can see, I had my Stalkers in the previous replay at my opponent's base at the 440 point.
And now it's a little bit later. That's 5 minutes before you get your first shot off. And also, I noticed that your second or your fourth Stalker was a little bit delayed. You got your third one out a little bit sooner. Was that just a function of a missed chrono boost, or what caused that?
I think I went to get Warp Gate quicker, rather than getting the 4 Stalkers out. Yeah, so you can see here, if I had arrived with my Stalkers on time, he would have had 3 Marines, and I would have had 20 seconds before that Marauder popped out. But all of a sudden, 3 Marines and a Marauder is extremely strong against 2 Stalkers. And then he gets the second Marauder out by the time my next Stalkers arrive. You can just see this sort of snowballing effect as things start going downhill.
Right, and he's basically just defending you with only his
One
barracks
barracks.
as he is getting, a starport and a tank out of his factory. So he's defending this push very, very easily. And is that because of the earlier units, or is that just a function of how late you were?
Because I was late, I couldn't get that initial harass off, and then you have to micro well to keep your Stalkers alive. And you can see I lost a couple Stalkers in trade-offs that really weren't worth it.
And now your Stalkers are being pursued very quickly by
Yeah.
3 Marauders and a tank, with the Marine leading the way. But your front forward proxy pylon here is a very easy scout flank. And unfortunately, that's going to go down as well as your Stalkers, which kind of just danced back into the fray. And you lost a lot of minerals and a lot of ground there.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, I even got the Stargate out late. I mean, I don't know why I decided to build 4 gateways to go with the Stargate. You obviously can't support all those buildings off of one base. So, I think I just started panicking essentially. And I need to get a really big army out really quickly because, like, he's coming fast with 3 Marauders and 2 tanks, right?
Yeah, you're about 20 food behind at this point, and that's a very scary number for any race to get behind, especially for Romans, because their units take up so much supply as it is. Being that far behind is very bad. We do have Vikings out. I don't know exactly why we have Vikings out, but I don't think he scouted your Stargate. He did. He scanned, but your win rate is in a bad spot here as the Vikings are just able to chip it in.
Yeah, yeah, that wasn't so good.
But this just shows that no strategy is unbeatable. It just has
exactly
proper counters. And you keep warping in more Stalkers, whereas maybe
I really should have gotten some Zealots out.
Or a Sentry to increase range damage, or Force Field ramp or something like that.
Yeah, like I played a series of games, and I tried to do the exact same thing in every game because I wanted to get a series of replays out for this guide that I was building. And so I just got stuck in Void Ray Stalker mentality. Like, I really should have thrown some Zealots down there, maybe a couple Sentries. But as we can see, I didn't. And he just sits back on his advantage, gets ready for a big push.
Yeah, and he's throwing down a bunch of stuff. Notably, he's going to be expanding. He's throwing down another barracks. Ghost Academy as well. He's just, getting more well-rounded, and he sees everything you're doing because of the awesome ability to scan. Now, interestingly enough, you built a Phoenix, and it's been discussed that that could be a possible alternate transition to the Void Ray. What prompted the Phoenix at this point in the game as you run into
well, the Void Ray is really strong against the Vikings if they're fully charged up, and your opponent isn't TLO when it comes to micro or something like that.
Oh, right.
But they, I really just got that to help my Void Ray, just to support the Void Ray against those Vikings, because Phoenixes are strong against Vikings. I believe a Phoenix beats a Viking one-on-one. Although I'm pretty sure that that's the case.
Nah,
so
I'm doubtful of that one because the Viking is armored. The Phoenix doesn't do any bonus damage to it. So.
Okay.
But
well, maybe I'm wrong. But at any rate,
you know what you could have said? You could have said, "I got it, so I could charge up my Void Ray before going into battle." That
would have been a good idea.
So now you've transitioned quite clumsily into a little bit different. You have a Zealot and a Sentry out as you get up your expansion, but at this point you're very far behind as your opponent Fu has apparently forgot about his expansion, now only getting his orbital as well as his SCV's mining, but he's got a death push. He doesn't need any anti-air because he has those Vikings flying around somewhere on the map, and he's just got tanks and Marauders that absolutely eat up Stalkers.
Absolutely.
In some other games that you posted on the forums, you do transition out of the Void Ray Stalker into like Chargelet Templar, and that seems to work very well as it completely forces your opponents to change what they're doing.
Yeah, Chargelet Templar is my preferred transition against Terran. Unfortunately, it's very hard to do on one base because Templars, just getting the tech and the research for Templars is very gas intensive. So I like to get the charge lots maybe on one base, but I don't usually go for Templars until I've got a few more gases going. And so that's why I went for the expansion, even though I just felt like I needed to get some higher tier units against this Viking tank combination.
Oh, that point defense drone making all of those Stalkers that were so hard to warp in nearly useless.
Yes.
And charge isn't done yet. It looks like you're trying to wait for it, but it's not going to help you.
No.
You're about to tap out here as you have like this death army of terror. But, so you kind of were stubborn in this game, but you see that it can be pushed off if that timing isn't right. And
yeah, there are ways of the build is flexible enough that you can deal with those timings. So when I got those 2 Stalkers there late and seen what he had, I should have gone for a faster Stargate. I shouldn't have gotten those extra Stalkers out. I shouldn't have gone for Warp Gate. I should have gotten that Stargate down and started getting those Void Rays as fast as possible. And that's what I try to do most of the time. But I was still kind of learning the ups and downs of the build at this point, so I just sort of stuck with it and tried to make some micro magic happen. And my micro was the opposite of magic. It was quite detrimental almost. So
yeah, it's it's a tough pill to swallow as you're trying to showcase that build, but you really can't do much against a force of just pure Marauder tank. And actually, he has a couple Marines as well, but that kind of shuts down all aggression. And getting that early attack and that pressure would have easily forced him into a much smaller army, but at the same time, you would have been in a better position yourself. I think that, unfortunately, the rush distance and everything just kind of worked against you in this instance. But
he was also very diligent about getting those units out quite quickly, the 3 Marines and the Marauder, because I've watched a lot of my replays on this map, and my Stalkers always tend to arrive around the 5-minute point. And it's only really been a problem a couple of times, but I mean, it's fairly standard that the Terran can get those units out. I've often just been able to get my Stalkers there within the first 5 minutes, and I guess they've been assuming that I won't rush fast from my base because of the long rush distance, so you can often catch your opponent off guard with that in that respect. But if they're playing pretty standard and they're going for 1-1-1, pumping out of their barracks, you do have to be pretty diligent in your own timing.
Indeed. And this actually might have been a setup for something different. Almost like, I don't think this is what he intended to do. It seemed like he was getting that starport maybe for a drop with bio. Or something like that, because that would have been a better setup. It would have made sense for him to constantly produce bio. But when he saw the Stalkers, I think he saw the opportunity for tanks. And so it just kind of contributed to that. And then when the Void Ray came, he scanned that Stargate and probably knew exactly what was going to happen to him. So
yeah, he was kind of smart. He got that Viking out instead of scanning to scout, which, I mean, since a Mule is about, what, 350 minerals or so? 270? Okay.
Around there somewhere.
Yeah, so somewhere in there. I mean, it was a pretty cost-effective way for him to scout. And then when he saw the starport, I mean, it's an easy decision for him to just keep making Vikings.
And, it just goes to show that you're going to continue to work on it, and people are going to find their own little timing counters to this as well. And that's just the beauty of the game, I think.
Absolutely.
So we're going to go on to one of another person's replay in which they utilize the Gnial Stalker into Void Ray build and see the subtle differences that he imposes to put pressure on the Terran and ultimately prevail. So, Gnial, thank you again for accompanying me on this wonderful trek to understand and popularize this even further, as most Terran opponents are getting a little bit more of a whiff of this strategy.
Absolutely. Thanks again for having me.
Of course. Stay tuned, everyone. The next game is coming up shortly.